If you clicked on this video, you're probably in the market right now for a gaming PC handheld, and you're also probably in the middle of a 3-week bender comparing performance stats like FPS and battery life, resolutions, all these different metrics that go into all these different handhelds, and I'm just here to tell you right now, stop it. Just buy a Steam Deck. And if you're that kind of person, you clicked on the perfect video, because I've been doing this channel for over 3 years at this point, and I do it purely for the love of the game, baby. The ad rates on Steam Deck content are dismal. I just like playing on the Steam Deck. I like talking about the Steam Deck. I use it every single day, and I've put thousands of hours into playing games, navigating the desktop, installing different apps, and doing everything you can do on the Steam Deck. And that's why, once again, I'm gonna tell you just buy a Steam Deck. When it comes to gaming hardware, there's 2 different camps you could kind of fall into. One of the camps is the type of person who really cares about hardware and the advancement of handheld chips. You know, they track how performant they are at different wattages, like if they're all running at 17 watts, which one gets the best performance. They track things like maximum FPS, how much of the actual resolution are you pushing without using upscalers. They're really invested in how well games run. And then the other type of person who's into gaming hardware actually wants to use it to play games. Now, I'm not saying the super technically minded people don't play games. I just think their hobby or their passion is more seeing what chips can do and what hardware can do versus actually getting a device with the sole intention of playing a lot of video games. I am somewhere in the middle. Like, I like seeing new tech come out and seeing big advancements in chip performance and everything like that. But once you start talking big numbers like teraflops and CUs and all these different metrics that these other YouTubers use who are really technically minded, I glaze over and I start thinking about what I have to do later on in Dying Light the Following when I get done with work. But on the other hand, I'm not the kind of person who's obsessed with games to the point where I feel this deep desire to play literally every new game the day it comes out. I know what I like. I like survival horror games. I like racing games. I like first-person shooters. I like third-person shooters. I'm really looking for tone and atmosphere at this point in a lot of games, because once you've been around for 32 years, you've come up with every game that's been out in the wild at this point. Even though games will look visually different, their core structures, you see through the matrix a little bit, and they all end up feeling the same. So you refine your taste, you find the stuff you want to play, you buy those games, and you play them. So like when it comes to being a hardware-minded person, I like tech specs, but I also really enjoy playing video games, and I know exactly what kind of games I like. If you're watching this video right now, I'd imagine you're in that second camp because, you know, we're 3 years into the Steam Deck life cycle, and the more technically minded people, a lot of what they do on YouTube or in their everyday life relies on getting this stuff early, or at least on launch day, and they don't mind if there's bugs or weird things to work through because they're more technically minded people who like figuring that stuff out. But if you're 3 years in to the life cycle of the Steam Deck and you're trying to figure out what handheld to buy, I'm assuming your only goal is to get a device that's really good for playing games. So while on paper, devices like the Xbox ROG Ally or the Legion Go 2 look like they're going to get amazing performance, like so much better performance than the Steam Deck, there's a lot of speed bumps and roadblocks that get in the way from literally turning on the device the first time. When you boot up any of these Windows devices for the first time, you're looking at least an hour of mandatory updates. Then you've got to go into the Asus Armory Crate app or the Lenovo equivalent of that and update the firmware and everything else on the device. And then once you get through that process is when you can begin downloading games. When you're talking about the Steam Deck, it comes in a nice box wrapped in plastic with a free carrying case. You take it out of the case, you turn it on, you connect it to Wi-Fi, you log into Steam, you update it, and you are good to start downloading games. The amount of time it takes to get a Steam Deck from brand new to up and running is less than an hour. When you're talking about Windows, the experience is going to last anywhere from 1 hour to 3. There's a lot of stuff that can go wrong, and I know there's a lot of people who are power users out there who have set up Windows 11 on many devices and will call you a moron for not being able to figure it out, but I'm pretty technically minded, and I had issues with both my regular ROG Ally X and my Xbox One. I had to do a lot of updates twice on it. So just from an ease of use and ease of getting into game standpoint, SteamOS is far ahead than the competition, and it works extremely well. If you're coming from a game console, you're going to feel right at home because logging into Steam is just like logging into the PlayStation Network for the first time, or the Xbox Network, Xbox Live, Xbox Game Pass. I don't know what they call it these days because they change things so much. And when it comes to actually using the devices, I think the Steam Deck is A, easier if I haven't driven that point home, but B, just a lot more reliable. I never have games crash crash on the Steam Deck. Back when it came out, games like Arkham Knight or Elden Ring might experience a crash once in a while, but since those first few updates, I have honestly never seen games crash to the desktop unless I'm playing a demo for something that's in alpha or playing a game that's not optimized in any way, shape, or form for the Steam Deck. And thankfully, those games are extremely rare. In my testing period that I had with every Windows handheld I've ever been sent for review, I've had games crash, I've had the device reboot, I've had the resolution being blown up beyond the screen's limits. I mean, the issues that you experience on a Windows PC desktop are the exact same issues you're going to experience on a handheld. And for someone like me who has limited time to actually sit down and play games, anything that just gets me into the game faster is what I think is worth doing. So when you're looking at the Steam Deck versus Windows, there's really no competition there. And when it comes to these handhelds, one major feature that doesn't get enough praise is the sleep mode on the Steam Deck. You tap the power button, it goes to sleep just like a Nintendo Switch. You could leave it as long as the battery is going to stay charged in standby mode, which for me is up to a week and a half. Come back to it later and you'll be exactly where you left off. Even if you go on your other PC and start playing games, when your Steam Deck is in sleep mode, it's not registering that it's playing a game to Steam. So you can come back whenever and it works totally fine. With Windows handhelds, I mean, if it goes to sleep, it might stay on with the screen off and just drain your battery, which will kick you out of a game. A lot of the games on the Xbox app will force you to quit them if you don't connect to the internet. So if you leave your house while a game is running and then turn the thing on before you reconnect to Wi-Fi somewhere else, it might crash the game and tell you to go back to the menu, and then you'll have issues restarting it from that point. People have to do things like switch it to hibernate instead of sleep when you tap the power button. And I understand that once you do those things, it kind of fixes the experience. But the point I'm making is you don't have to worry about that on the Steam Deck. So if you're looking to just get into games right out of the box, I think you're going to be a lot happier with the Steam Deck. And when it comes to actual performance, I mean, the benchmarks these companies share are like the pie in the sky, best scenario possible version that you'd have to be running to get the frame rates they're advertising. In my experience, after extensive testing, if a game runs at 30 FPS on the Steam Deck, it'll run at 45 or 50 on these other Windows handhelds. And if you drop them to 720p, you might be able to get closer to 60. But the vast majority of games run around the same window by like 10 or 15 FPS between these two devices, which is a huge testament to the Steam Deck because at this point it's over 3 years old and it's still being competitive with devices that are coming out today, which is awesome. So what I'm trying to say is don't believe the people who have never used a Steam Deck who are going to try to tell you that it's like buying a Game Boy Advance in 2025. It runs games just fine, and from an ease of use standpoint, everything works great out of the box and gets better with each and every update from Valve. Another huge reason I love recommending the Steam Deck so much is because it respects your time. So I make a lot of videos. I make about 7 a week, and then I have to worry about everything in the house. I have to help my parents out with stuff. I'm constantly doing yard work because that's become a hobby for me. So the amount of time where I feel like I get to play video games without being guilty and feeling like I have so much to do is generally like 1 to 2, maybe 3 hours a night if I'm lucky. And I don't want to spend that time screwing around with Windows updates or settings. I just want to boot the thing up and get into the game. So when my wife is watching Dancing with the Stars Wicked Night on the couch, I can sit next to her and play the exact same PC games I enjoy playing, but I get to be with my wife doing something I really like to do while she's doing something she really likes to do. Or if I'm at Starbucks and I'm waiting for my MacBook to export one of my videos, I just pull out the Steam Deck, get right back into Dying Light, knock out some scavenging or fixing my Doom buggy or whatever, and then when the video's exported, I turn the thing off, throw it back in my backpack, and get right back to work. It's really provided a great way to keep my brain occupied when I'm bored, right? Like usually I'll pull out my phone and scroll through Twitter and find a tweet that really pisses me off, and I'll send it to my friends, and then we'll make fun of the person back and forth, or I'll go on Instagram Reels and find something funny and just scroll through a million videos. Over time, I've replaced that 15 minutes of boredom with getting something done in a game that I'm currently playing, and it's helped me chip away more at my backlog over time because I'm finishing so many more games. And when it comes to PC gaming, I know people are scared of screwing around with settings, but more and more developers literally every day are shipping updates or brand new games with Steam Deck presets, so you don't have to worry about settings at all. And also there's great resources like my friend Felix's app Deck Settings, which just launched, where you can type in any game that's on Steam and find a bunch of different resources with settings that will tell you how long the battery life lasts or what FPS you're getting. And the less time I have to spend doing that, the better, because that's more more time I can spend playing video games. And when you look at the competing handhelds like the Legion Go line or the Ally line, they all basically use 3 or 4 different chips. They all have different iterations, whereas the Steam Deck has the Steam Deck LCD and the Steam Deck OLED. And even though the OLED gets slightly better performance, they largely run games exactly the same. So you don't have to segment the settings for each console, which is excellent. So finding stuff is a lot easier, a lot faster, and there's just more people using the Steam Deck out there providing their best settings that work great than there are from competing handhelds. Another huge reason you should just buy a Steam Deck is because Valve really cares about this thing and is still updating it nearly every week to this day. If there's a bug, you can bet that Valve will find it and fix it within a couple of weeks when someone in the community points it out to them. If a new game comes out and people really want to play it on the Steam Deck, they'll make sure that they update the compatibility layer Proton within a couple of hours to make sure it works. This literally just happened to me with Arc Raiders. They did their server slam test, which only lasted a few days. And within a few hours of that playtest launching, there was an update for Proton hotfix that shipped right to my Steam Deck and made sure that I could get the most playtime out of that playtest as possible. And that's direct support from Valve. Also, SteamOS has just gotten so much better since it came out. Like, it was in great shape when it launched, but channels like mine, channels like Fan the Deck, we would read our comments and see suggestions from people, or people would go out of their way to make third-party tools and updates that they thought would work well on the deck. And if Valve saw people using those tools, within a week or two, you'd see them officially baked into SteamOS itself. They really listen to the community, they take direct feedback from the community, and they implement it only if it's generally going to make things a lot better for people. And then if there's something that's really messing with your deck, like overclocking or undervolting or anything like that, they leave the house unlocked so you can get in there and tinker all you want. But if you're someone who just wants to play games, you can rest assured that Valve is always working on this thing, making it better for you to have a more enjoyable experience playing games. So like getting direct support from Valve 3 years after this device launched, and with them shipping it for other products without missing a beat on making sure bugs are fixed and games are updated to work correctly, you just have so much peace of mind when you use the Steam Deck that you don't really get on other handhelds, because there's a weird issue where, you know, these manufacturers push out multiple iterations of these things within the span of a couple of years. And when the new one comes out, because they're so expensive and because support is so limited in terms of how many people are buying them, you start to see updates fade off a lot quicker on the old device than you do on something like the Steam Deck, where they release the Steam Deck OLED and they both just get the same updates as time goes on versus one losing support over the other. And I think that's commendable and worth shouting out, because Windows is just a subpar experience when it comes to updates and making sure your devices are supported long term. Like a very recent example is with the Xbox full screen experience that kind of rebuilds Windows to be navigatable by a controller. That's exclusive to the newest, most expensive ROG Ally, when Xbox has been marketing both the regular Ally and the Ally X for years at this point. There's literally no excuse as to why those devices shouldn't have gotten that update day one. That would never happen with the Steam Deck. And the next reason you should just buy a Steam Deck is because it will play anything you throw at it. If you're the kind of person who's very nostalgic, you like playing Super Nintendo games, or you're like me and you love the black box Need for Speed games, you can play all of that stuff on the Steam Deck, and it's super easy to set up. There's an app called EmuDeck. You just download it and install it. It sets up every emulator for you. You provide the ROMs and BIOS. Bam, you're good to go. You can add all those games to Steam and launch them directly from Steam. It's super easy, and they look and run great on the Steam Deck. Those EA black box games look and run incredible because there's abandoned PC ports out there. If you're someone who has an extremely big backlog like I do, and you're going back to play 10-year-old games like Dying Light the Following, I go into my library, get that purchase I paid for 10 years ago, just download it straight to the device, boot it up, and bam, I'm in Dying Light the Following. And if you're someone who likes playing brand new games like Silent Hill F, Arc Raiders, not Battlefield 6 because the anti-cheat is unsupported, but the vast majority of games out there that are brand new, 9 times out of 10, you can just download them right away and they'll work excellently on the Steam Deck. You just might have to drop the settings a little bit and limit it to 30 FPS, but the input there is so minor that I don't think it matters. It's basically the jack of all trades, master of all, because basically any game I've thrown at this thing, outside a few outliers that have anti-cheat, have worked flawlessly on the deck, and that's a huge reason I always come back to it. I've had a lot of handhelds come through here, and a lot of them are really good, but at the end of the day, when I'm playing on them, honestly, sometimes I can't wait to finish recording the video and get it on my channel so I can go back to playing what I was playing on the Steam Deck. It feels like a full platform that's right up there with the Nintendo Switch, the PS5, the Xbox Series X, these big brands that have been around for decades, and they managed to do it in 3 years. It doesn't feel like it's in the same pool as the competing handhelds. It feels like it's in an existence in a league of its own. So yeah, if you're the kind of person who really cares about tech specs, you really care about higher resolutions, you really care about Xbox Game Pass, I would guess you're probably not watching at this point if you clicked on the video, or you never clicked on it in the first place because you bought one of those devices day one. But if you're someone who watches these news videos I do on the channel, or has been hearing about the Steam Deck on YouTube, Twitter, or through friends in real life, and have been thinking about, you know, just going to Steam, adding it to your cart and picking one up, you should just do it. Just buy a Steam Deck. I don't think you'll be disappointed. And if you are, you can tell me in the comments and I'll feel really bad. But I'm just telling you, I get comments all the time from people who are like, damn, YouTube put this channel in my homepage for months. I've been watching the videos. I just bought a Steam Deck and you were right. So just expedite the time it takes you to tell me I was right. So, you know, it just works out better that way. So yeah, if you don't have a Steam Deck just yet, I hope I convinced you. And if you're a regular viewer of the channel who does have a Steam Deck, thanks for sticking around till the end on a video trying to convince you to buy a device you already own. You are awesome, and I hope you're having a great week. Anyway, guys, as always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and shape on.